Hello everyone, it's Colby, and today a new D&D book, a new adventure book was just announced this morning. So we're going to go over some of the details, what we know about the book so far. I'll tell you my thoughts and we'll go from there. So we'll start off by going to the information that's on the Dungeons & Dragons website. So this new book, as I mentioned, is an adventure book. It's very much like Candlekeep, in which it has a whole bunch of smaller adventures that usually go 1 or 2 levels. So this time, this adventure book takes place around the Radiant Citadel. It's called Journeys Through the Radiant Citadel. It's a collection of 13 short standalone D&D adventures featuring challenges for characters level 1 to 14. So 13 adventures, 14 levels, so one of them has 2 levels in it, the other ones are just 1 level each. As usual, it includes its own kind of maps. It introduces the Radiant Citadel, which we'll go into a little bit more detail about that, just because there's additional information in other articles we'll go over. And I mean, it introduces 11 new D&D monsters, which they put right there as a feature, but it's 11 monsters. Hopefully they're cool. We'll see what they are. And it seems to me that this is a lot more kind of like variety as to what the adventures are going to be like. As it says here, the adventures are going to vary from being whimsical and light to dark and foreboding. So this comes out on June 21st, 2022, a couple months from now. Let's go into a little bit more detail as to what is in this book. So this is an article from Polygon written by Charlie Hall, and it talks about a presentation for the press that Ajit George, hopefully I'm pronouncing that right, said did for the press. He goes into a little bit more details. This is, one thing they mention is that this is the first Dungeons & Dragons book that's written entirely by Black and Brown authors. I think that's great. In his presentation, talks about how that kind of influences the adventures as well, with the Radiant Citadel being a very vibrant place. So the Radiant Citadel revolves around the titular location within the ethereal plane. So this is in the ethereal plane. The city is carved from a massive fossil of mysterious origins, an ancient, likely extinct creature that no one has yet been able to identify. And I hope that's one of the monsters. I'm a big fan of like high challenge rating monsters with unique mechanics. So I hope that monster ends up coming to life at a certain point, maybe at the 14th adventure, and ends up having to fight it or whatever, because those monsters, they're universal. You can use them in any campaign. So the city, was inspired by kind of Indian rock cut architecture. And surrounding the city are these 15 smaller gemstones called Concord jewels. They're all connected to the material plane, and it's kind of how like the people of the Radiant Citadel teleport around to the material plane. It's kind of like a hub. So they allow for rapid transport to and from the city, but 12 of those gems are missing, and the locations are currently unknown. A lot of that is, the adventures are going to be based on finding those gems. But one thing I like that they add here is that this was done so that we could allow DM freedom to place a Concord jewel wherever makes sense. So you can have a longer campaign in this setting in this book and have that, actually have kind of more of like a modular campaign. You could make your own individual 13 stories finding the 13 gems with a big massive conclusion around level 14 or 15. That definitely interests me. The Radiant City is going to be a little bit different than some of the other locations they said, like Baldur's Gate and Waterdeep. It's not a place of evil. It is a place where people can live together in peace. It is meant, as George says here, it is meant to give players a real hope, a respite, a place to regroup and rebuild after facing the worst and most tragic challenges. So I would suspect that the challenges are more based around going outside of the Radiant Citadel. You kind of start in there. I'm sure there's going to be some in there, but you know, sounds like it's more peaceful within the Radiant Citadel, and it's more treated as like a hub so you can go around the realm. So that's all I have to talk about in this article, but there is one other one here that was written by Dicebreaker, by Matt Jarvis today. So that goes into a little bit more details about the adventures. So the first opening adventure, Salted Legacy, covers the first and second levels. The scenario centers on a family feud in a night market sparked by recent thefts and vandalism, and is described as drawing from Thai culture. So again, you know, that influence from people of color. The aesthetic of Studio Ghibli film Spirited Away, which is pretty popular. I haven't seen it myself, but I do know it's a legendary film. And the mystery of animated series Gravity Falls seem to influence this adventure. That sounds really cool. The third level scenario, called Ridden in Blood, meanwhile is said to be a darker, creepier adventure set in a new region called God's Breath. So like I mentioned, seems like there's quite a bit of variety in terms of theme with these adventures. And kind of it looks like this one is kind of inspired by a love letter / homage to the Black experience in the southern United States, which sounds pretty powerful. I'm excited to see what that one's like. And the third journey that they talked about was Shadow of the Sun, which was created by Iranian-American Justice Arman. The 11th level scenario takes place in a holy city ruled by a red-winged angel, which it sounds, yeah, again, just more variety to these adventures. So that's really all the information we know right now. It was announced today. It seems like Candlekeep did pretty well, and they want to double down on those kind of smaller one-shot adventures, release a new book, and the setting sounds pretty cool, to be honest, with, you know, the Radiant Citadel. There's going to be a lot in the book, you know, fleshing out that place in the D&D world. I'm not really an adventure type kind of DM. I'm not too interested in running scripted adventures from books, but one thing I did like getting from Candlekeep was it inspired me and gave me ideas to create my own campaigns, and I think this is going to be a perfect campaign for that. You can use the Radiant Citadel for almost any kind of campaign you want to run, or just make it a place in your own world. So stay tuned for any future videos if there's any more information on this new book, as well as any other books. My buddy Philip and I are also ranking all of the subclasses right now, which is taking quite a long time. There's, I think, over 120. And like and subscribe, of course. Thanks for watching.